If you're selling real estate in the Hoosier state, your license is literally the foundation of your livelihood, right? Lose that and you lose your income. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking all that dense, boring regulatory text and turning it into a crystal clear step-by-step guide to renewing your Indiana real estate credential. We're going to make sure you never have to stress about losing your legal ability to work. So let's jump right in with the most absolutely critical question every single broker in Indiana faces every 3 years. What exactly happens on June 30th? Now, you know this isn't just some random date on the calendar. It's the strict, synchronized expiration date for every active real estate credential across the entire state. And honestly, what's the reality if you miss that deadline? Well, the law's absolute here. You must stop all real estate activities. If your license lapses on that date, boom, you instantly lose your legal authority to practice. Your income stream just completely halts. Plus, you're putting your current clients and transactions at massive risk. Keeping that license active is totally non-negotiable. To keep you fully compliant, here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the stakes of renewal, your CE requirements, the step-by-step renewal process, how to navigate audits and obstacles, and finally, setting up rock-solid compliance systems. All right, Section 1, the stakes of renewal, navigating the triennial cycle. So, the Indiana Professional Licensing Agency, or the PLA, enforces this synchronized expiration cycle. That means every broker's credential expires on the exact same day every 3 years. And the absolute magic number you've got to remember for this cycle? 36. Yep. To maintain your active status, you have to complete a total of 36 hours of approved continuing education, or CE, during this 3-year block. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. You can't just cram all 36 hours in at the very last minute right before your renewal is due. No way. You are strictly required to knock out exactly 12 hours annually between July 1st and June 30th. Industry pros always tell us that pacing yourself and balancing these 12 hours with your busy schedule each year is the real secret to avoiding that frantic, last-minute scramble. Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, continuing education requirements, knowing your specific track. Now, you might be wondering, does everyone take the exact same classes? Nope. Not all licenses have the exact educational requirements. It's super interesting, actually. There's an explicit requirement if you're a managing broker. While a standard broker just needs 12 hours of general approved CE, managing brokers have to dedicate 4 of those 12 hours specifically to business management and legal knowledge, right alongside the 8 hours of standard CE. Okay, but what if you're newly licensed? Well, your first hurdle looks a little bit different. You're actually required to complete a specific 30-hour post-licensing curriculum within your first 2 years. It covers some really specific foundational topics, things like 6 hours on transactions, 6 on financing, and 10 on business planning. And here's the cool part. Completing this targeted 30-hour block actually satisfies your standard CE requirements for those first 2 years. Pretty great, right? So if we map out this 3-year cycle, you can really see how keeping up with your annual compliance just steadily paves the way for a totally stress-free renewal. You hit 12 hours in year 1, 12 in year 2, and 12 in year 3 right before renewing. A really solid, actionable tip here, knock out your 12 hours early in the CE year. Maybe do it during the slower winter months. That way you aren't stuck taking classes when your clients need you the absolute most in the busy spring and summer seasons. All right, moving on to Section 3, the step-by-step renewal process, executing the digital workflow. Indiana has actually really modernized its infrastructure, which is great news. It means you just follow a pretty streamlined digital checklist. First, you'll log into the Access Indiana portal. Next, you just link your license via the My License One dashboard. Third, double-check and verify your current contact data. Fourth, you've got to answer those mandatory background and legal disclosures. And finally, you submit your application and pay your non-refundable $60 renewal fee. It's a really smooth, completely paperless process, as long as you're prepared. Now, Section 4, navigating audits and obstacles, monsters on the road. Okay, pay close attention to this because it's a highly critical detail. You actually don't upload your CE certificates during that online renewal process. Surprising, right? Instead, the Professional Licensing Agency conducts random, very strict audits immediately after the renewal window closes. Basically, compliance is verified after the fact, which means the burden of proof, it is entirely on you. And listen, if you get selected for an audit and you can't produce those certificates, or worse, you're caught falsifying records, you are facing severe disciplinary actions that can literally cripple your career.
We are talking about potential license suspension, being placed on professional probation, being forced to take mandatory additional education, and even stiff civil penalties of up to $1,000 per violation. It's just not worth the risk.
Another major roadblock that trips people up is a tax protest. The commission is legally barred from renewing your license until the Indiana Department of Revenue confirms, in writing, that any active tax lien is resolved. The digital system will actually put a hard stop on your renewal until this is totally cleared up. So if you've got an ongoing tax issue, handle it well in advance of June 30th. But hey, what if you simply forget? Life happens and you miss the June 30th deadline by a couple of days. Well, you'll be hit with a mandatory $50 late fee. That specific dollar amount was actually recently codified by state legislation just to ensure real estate professionals take the deadline seriously and renew on time. Now, knowing the rules brilliantly illustrates the real danger of prolonged delinquency. If your license has been expired for less than 3 years, you're mostly okay. You can still catch up on your CE, pay that late fee, and renew online. But if you wait more than 3 years, the consequences seriously escalate. You'll be forced to entirely reprove your competency. That means you've got to take 36 hours of CE, get special authorization, submit a physical reinstatement form with a sponsor, and, get this, actually retake the state portion of the licensing exam. Yikes. So, to make absolutely sure you never have to face those reinstatement nightmares, let's jump to Section 5, Systems for Compliance, Protecting Your Livelihood. To really protect yourself, there are a few super actionable best practices you should definitely adopt. First, complete your 12 CE hours early every single year. Always, always verify that your approved providers actually reported your credits to the Commission. Make sure you keep your Access Indiana login active. And most crucially, retain your physical or digital CE certificates for 3 full years after the cycle ends. Honestly, using a digital tool like a cloud drive or a dedicated compliance app to track your credits and store those PDFs securely is an absolute lifesaver if the auditors ever come knocking. It's also incredibly important to stay up to date with any changes in legislation or practices. You can do this by utilizing reliable resources like the Indiana PLA website. And hey, please remember that regulatory procedures naturally evolve over time, so this explainer is strictly for informational purposes. Always consult directly with a qualified legal or real estate professional or the licensing agency itself, just to guarantee your own personal compliance. So, I want to leave you with this one final thought. Are your continuing education hours actually ready for the next June 30th deadline? Seriously, don't wait until the last minute to find out. Check your records today, take control of your education, and ensure your real estate practice remains protected and thriving. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.